Hi, it's Jessi. Welcome to another turning where I like to read books and talk about them. Today we'll be doing my reading diary for part 4 of Rhythm of War. If you have not watched up to this point, I recommend watching the video, clicking up here for the playlist of videos. Today we're reading part 4 of Rhythm of War, A Knowledge. Get back to Leland and Shalom, my loves. And Bridge 4 collectively. We're gonna get some first person plural point of view, or more likely it's just going to be like made up of multiple point of views, but we'll see. Anyway, spoilers through what I've read at any given moment. So right now, spoilers for part 3 of Rhythm of War, and I'll let you know my thoughts when I've read a little. I'm only on chapter 75. I haven't even gotten that far, but I have a theory I want to say before the book possibly confirms it, so I can say I had the theory first. I think I know what's going on with Shalon. Here's my theory. I think she had bonded a spren before Pattern. That Pattern was not her first spren. And that's the spren that she used to kill her mom. And then she broke her oaths, therefore killing that spren. And now Shalon is bonded to Pattern, but has blocked all those memories. And when Pattern was trying to help her get those memories, like early in their bond, it kind of tore her apart. So he has backed off of that and now is pretending to be the only spren she's bonded to, which is why he lies about memories that didn't actually happen, because that wasn't him. It was never him. That's my theory. I don't know. Because he just had this whole thing where he was like bringing his friend to meet her, and it could very much could be a Deadeye Cryptic. That was her former bond mate. Anything else quickly just to report? Oh, I didn't change, whatever. The only other thing is that I kind of hope this trial is just them being like, well, we're going to sentence you to death, but then the Deadeyes being like, this man has been a good man. I think it would be fun. I think that's really it. Also, Relaine with Cal's parents is adorable. Oh, yeah, that's really it. Kind of wanted to read Warbreaker to see if maybe there's anybody else in that group that maybe could be connected that I know, other than just, you know, Azure and the Ardent guy. But anyway, that's that. I'm going to keep reading. All right, I made it through chapter 83, I think. Yeah, 83. Thoughts. Okay, well, let's start with the Venli trap and Eshonai flashbacks. There's something I forgot to mention from the beginning, but luckily it's continued, which is I absolutely hate the way Ulin talks with her. It is just like textbook abuse and manipulation, and it's awful. It's absolutely awful to read. That's really it. Other than that, I mean, I just don't, I'm not enjoying these flashbacks. I feel like we're not really learning anything new. I mean, it's giving us more of Venli's backstory and perspective and personality, which I think is good. But also, like, it's just awful to read. It's unpleasant, plain and simple. Other stuff. I love Blended and I love Design. Both of them fantastic. Literally every time I meet a new spread, I just kind of fall in love with them a little bit. The whole story with Told Kaladin was beautifully done. I think it's fantastic. So the Kremling issue. So Venli is passed on to Relaine and Liren and Hesina that Kremlings could be host to Voidspread. But I also think, because we know with Yasna's perspective that sometimes Kremling are these sleepless things. So I think that's also a reason. So I think it's good they're being cautious of Kremlings in general. But I don't know if I believe they're always Voidspread. And that maybe sometimes they're the sleepless thing. Whatever this sleepless is it another unmade maybe? I don't know. The trial. So Shalon has to kill Kellic or imprison him in a gemstone. But like based on what he said to Adolin, he wants to get out of Shadespire anyway. So I feel like if they approach him and are like, hey, we have a way to get you out. You have to trust us because we have to trap you into this gemstone. But trust us enough, let us trap you. We can free you when you get to our world, you know? Might work. I mean, then Shallan still has to decide whether to free him or to turn him over to Mraize, but like it's a solution, right? And then the only other thought I have is about Eshonai, or not Eshonai. The only other thought I have is about Navani. And she can use the rhythms. Like, I know it's so focused on this, like, blending of Void Light and Stormlight. Like, it's so focused on that in that moment, but she's able to attune rhythms. I feel like that's a bigger deal than they're making it. Like, humans with training can attune rhythms. I feel like that's such a big step for the human and listener-singer relations that is just being completely brushed over. The potential. But nonetheless, that's fascinating. I mean, I feel like all she's done is confirm something we already kind of knew. Although the fact that means what's-her-name is now actually going to start, Raboniel is actually going to start trying to destroy the tower is not great. Especially considering they're one orb away from that. Because Kaladin's response has been break the orbs to prevent them from being corrupted. Like, baby, no. Didn't anybody tell you not to do that? Anyway, also David's talking. And Lift is free. Good things are happening. In the name of saving Kaladin. Who Liren is more than ready to just turn over. I can't. I know, like, there is this thing of, like, you have to be practical, and to save him, he's going to need to take him in, because I can't do battlefield surgery on him if there's internal bleeding, but, like, also, like, don't you care at all what Kaladin would actually want? Like, but also, I don't think it's internal bleeding. I think this is something else, something brought on a little bit by odium, a little bit by the physical trauma, but mostly I think it's just that he is trapped in whatever this nightmare hellscape is that odium has him in. But yeah, anyway, that's Liren, Father of the Year. Great guy. I cannot stand him. More than Dalinar. He's actually probably my least favorite character in this entire series. I hate Liren. I hate him so much. Anyway, I'll update you when I've read some more. I am through chapter 92. I don't have a ton of thoughts. I mean, I've been really, really enjoying this section. I just love fantasy trials, like, an exorbitant amount. So I've been really enjoying this, but I don't really have a lot of thoughts. I just wanted to update you before my next, I guess now, formless perspective. Adolin being confronted with that cryptic, which I had totally forgotten he had seen in the market, like, duh, makes me even more confident that Shallan killed her first friend. Like, I'm pretty confident about that at this point. Feels like a gimme. I don't know. Or maybe I'll be surprised and it won't be that. So there's that. Let me see. I am increasingly nervous about the fact that it's Bridge 4 perspectives instead of Kaladin. I think we're going to get more of them woken up soon. But it also makes me completely convinced that Kaladin is going to do something stupid. Because we're not getting his perspective. And that has to be for a reason. And the reason seems dangerous. Anything else major I wanted to talk about? The epigraphs in this are very clearly, what's his name? Whatever the name of the Kellic. Are Kellic's perspective, possibly talking to Shallan, because he's all panicked about what's his name getting captured, and then he's like talking about himself getting captured. So that's interesting. We also have gotten confirmation that Rhythm of War, the epigraphs from the last part and the title, are the notes that Raboniel and Navani are making together, which are interesting. Also, sound is waves. I don't know why. Also, light is waves. I don't know why that didn't come to mind, and it took the sand responding to the vibrations for that to make sense. And so, like, in theory, the reverse of that would be the opposite. So, like, a sine wave would be cosine. of that wave, right? That's what that is. So that's interesting. We'll see how that works out, what she can do with that information. Anything else? Not relevant. Just literally the first 84, which was the first chapter I read on here, was Navani thinking about how she hadn't really been able to devote time to being a scholar. And one of her excuses was, quote, there had been a blackthorn to seduce. Girl, you didn't need to do that. Bless. All right, let's talk David. And in talking David, I'm going to talk a little bit about Renarin too. I always hesitate to call fictional characters autistic or autism coded. And I was thinking it for Renarin, and now with David, I also feel like he also feels autistic. And I don't know if that is, one, Sanderson's intent, and two, or two, whether I'm reading it that way because there's somebody a little weird, so my brain goes, they're on the spectrum. I don't know. So I'd love down below if there's anything that says whether or not that was Sanderson's intent. There's some stuff I do know, like I know he did not intend Syl to be ADHD, and very specifically like talked about how she's a sponge, she's different. So I wonder if there's anything about that. And I also wonder if there's some Own Voices Autism reader reviews of this and their opinions on Renarin and or David, just because that's kind of what I get. But I don't know. And I'm always kind of hesitant to say that because it always makes me assume I'm maybe making faulty assumptions. So I don't know, but that's the vibe I get. I just don't know. David more than Renarin, honestly. But that's mostly because as a teacher, I work with like kids on the spectrum on occasion, but the ones I work with at my current school, I just interact with more nonverbal kids, so that's where my brain went there. But I don't know. So I'm curious about thoughts on that. Again, anything from Sanderson, anything from some autistic readers would be really appreciated. But I also, I don't know how I feel about the representation of mental health and neurodivergent things in this book, in the series, just because it feels like it's getting, I don't know how to put it in a way that's not going to come across weird. It feels a little bit gotta catch them all, like, oh, well, let's throw in some depression rep. All right, we got some DID rep. And I don't know whether any of those are accurate representations, whether any of them are intended representations, or just Sanderson being like, I need somebody a little weird. This is, And so it leaves me a little confused. On the other end of that is, it is good. And if most people, then it's good, and there's no reason why it shouldn't be there. And so I'm just constantly kind of in a back and forth whenever I spend a little time thinking about those. So I'd just be curious, link down below anything you've seen for like either Own Voices reviews or Sanderson's commentary on this. I'd be really curious. Anyway, I'm going to get back, and I'm probably going to have a breakdown at this formless stuff, because quite frankly, more than anything, I think this is going to end up hurting Adolin, and I find myself weirdly protective of him, so that'll be rough. But it's a beautiful day outside. I'll go read out on the porch. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm only like 2 pages later, and the sound's going to be terrible because of the traffic. But like, Formless, Shalon, whoever the heck you are, I barely can deal with you being mean to Adolin. I will not stand for you being mean to Pattern. Leave that man alone. This is not okay. I'm very not okay with this. Okay. We interrupt my dinner to bring you my final thoughts on part 4. This one was a doozy. I don't even think I took that many notes because I was just like in pain the whole time. So let's start with Shalon. Ouch. Ouch. That's it, really. Ouch. I suspected that Radiant had a secret and that part of Shallan had killed Ile. I did not put the two together at any point. At no point did it click to me that that would have been something Radiant would have done. That's just not like, it's not like her. So that was a surprise. But honestly, that entire section, it just hurt. Like, Formless lashing out at Adolin and then at Pattern, it just hurt. It wasn't worth it. I mean, then we got to the reveal, which was like what we saw, but I also thought it was beautiful watching Vale, you know, finally give over her protection of Shallan. Like I said, it felt very big sisterly through most of it. And, you know, she's gone now. I mean, she's part of Shallan, but she's gone. And we don't really get a confirmation whether or not Radiant is also gone. So I think that'll be interesting to see going forward. If it's just Shallan now, or if there's still remnants of that hanging around. The trial, I mean, I called them calling Maya. I knew that was probably what was going to happen. I did not expect it to be so awful. I mean, there's no other word for it. I was not expecting to just sit there and watch her be tortured. And it's not as surprising as it maybe should be to find out that the Spren agreed with the Radiants on doing this. I mean, in what we see of the relationship between Spren and Radiants, it's rare that we see one completely just give over. Generally, the Spren is at least a little bit involved. And on that massive a scale, that's what I mean more. Is that, like, I can see one Radiant betraying their oaths, you know? But to have all of them do it, it makes sense that the Spren were involved. Navani. That entire thing where she was, like, with Rabani. Suddenly that name doesn't sound right to me. With Raboniel, was actually kind of painful. Because I could see what Raboniel was going to do with this information. Not kill her daughter. That was a shock, but also sad and beautiful. But the idea that she would take all of this work that you were doing towards finding the anti-void light, obviously she's going to use that to find the anti-stormlight. It just makes sense. And then, of course, we have life light, which isn't really talked about a lot. That's cultivation. But that's like nature, right? It's things like plants and things. I'm curious the role that's going to play, because it really feels like it's being more or less ignored. Now we know that we have discovered that's what Lift uses. So there's that. But, like, for the most part, it's being ignored. And I think that's a big gap in what everybody's doing reasoning. And then our interludes. Bless Asina. I feel like I have been maybe sleeping on her. Because she's fantastic. Putting Lyra in his place. I love it. I don't know who this boy is. I don't know who Aiden is. Should I know who Aiden is? Probably not. And then more Taravangi and stuff, which at this point, I don't know. I wax and wane with him. I go back and forth on how interesting he is. Right now, I'm kind of bored by him. Mostly because he's there, like, how do I make them listen? But when somebody was there, Renarin was right there offering him a hand, saying, here is your opportunity, and he didn't take it. And, like, he knows Renarin's the reason that, like, that Odium can't see things. So when it's Renarin being the one offering you a chance, and you know that it's a safe chance, why aren't you taking it? And so now it's hard to really care. But Jana is maybe giving him an opportunity. The way I see this playing out is that, one, this is only book 4 of 10, and we know that book 5 is kind of the end of the arc, right? It's not going to kill Odium. Maybe he'll wound him. Wait, is Nightblood somehow anti-something? If I had to guess, I'd be, because he works in other places, he'd be anti-Lifelight. Or made of it in some way, you know? Or operates on, because he absorbs Stormlight. We know that. But he also will absorb somebody's life essence if Stormlight's not available. but he's not from here, or is he? We don't actually know where he's from, right? Do we know? Was he from Warbreaker? Did we figure that out when Vasher had him, that like, I know where he comes from, or was he discovered? I don't remember. I really think I need to do a Warbreaker reread. I want to do an Elantris reread first. I really feel like I need to do a Warbreaker reread. I'm getting sidetracked. Anyway, point being is that, like, I think Odium's going to kill Taravangian, but be injured in the process or something. Like, there's going to be a point to it. Or none of this happens in this book and this happens later, and it is what ultimately kills Odium, maybe. Although, like, I think Navani is not, maybe, I mean, like, the whole thing is that Ravoniel said that, like, you couldn't get enough of it to kill Odium. But if you could strike right at his heart, which we know he has some sort of central, would you need that much? Or you could just use it to kill the singers and then... Anyway, that was part 4 of Rhythm of War. I'm going to get back to reading. Make sure you are subscribed so you can see when I post the next one of these. Should be in 2 weeks. Like the video if you liked it. Leave me your thoughts down below. Especially that stuff about representation. I'm very curious on general thoughts, fandom opinion, anything that's been said about that. I'm very curious. And see you in the next one. Love y'all. Bye.